Do you ever come across a reel where you're positive it's not a 1080p video? Then you go ahead and try to upload your own high quality video just to watch the quality drop? Let me show you the secret techniques and export settings that I use. So the first step will be to create a new project in Premiere. I do a lot of edits in After Effects, but I usually always use them as a linked composition, and I do the actual exporting and color grading within Premiere. Name it whatever you want. Go ahead and create that project. Or go ahead and create a new sequence. I normally do 29.97 or essentially 30 frames a second, but some people do prefer the 24 frames per second or 23.976. You basically just use whichever one you prefer. Then you're going to want to set the frame size. What I do is I set this as 4K vertical. So it's 2160 by 3840. Make sure it's square pixels. You don't need any fields. I keep the display format the same. You'll want to use Rec 709 for the color space. Audio, I keep it at 48,000 Hertz. And preview, I use QuickTime and Apple ProRes. So then you can name your sequence. So we'll just name that export settings. And then you'll want to make sure that you have maximum bit depth, maximum render quality, composite linear color. This will use GPU acceleration. I would save it as a preset. You could just name it Instagram Reels 4K Vert. You can put a description if you want. So now that'll save it as one of your presets, so you don't need to do the settings every single time. You can just select that. So go ahead and hit OK. So now you have the sequence. So what you want to do now is import your video. And so this one I have at 60 FPS because I want to do slow-mo, so I'll do half speed. So you want to scrub through and find the part that you want. I'll use this part right here. Go ahead and keep existing settings. I'm going to actually go ahead and set this to slow-mo. So I'm going to put it to 50% since it's 60 frames a second. So then you'll see that looks like that. So then what I'll do is normally I'll create an adjustment layer, and you'll use the adjustment layer to make all the Lumetri color effects. So now you want to go to your Lumetri color panel on the adjustment layer that you just made and go to the creative section, choose the LUT. So I'm going to just use a natural. So then you'll want to go into your basic correction, and this is where the most important part comes in. To make it look as sharp as possible in 1080p, you want to have high contrast and pretty high saturation. So what I'll normally do is I'll crank up the contrast quite a bit. Go ahead and bring down some of the exposure. A lot of times I'll bring the shadows pretty low. Bring the blacks down as well. If the whites are too bright, bring those down just a little bit as well. Make sure you get your coloring exactly how you want it. And then I'll also crank up the saturation about 30% usually, 30 to 35%. So then that will look like this. So since you can't do time remapping and use warp stabilizer at the same time, you'll want to nest your clip just to make sure. And then we'll just add that warp stabilizer effect. And I'll set that probably to about 10%. Let that analyze. Once that's stabilized. Okay, so now we're gonna export this. So what I'll do is I'll hit O for the out point. That way you're only exporting this part. Go ahead and hit the export tab. So here you'll want to match your source adaptive high bitrate. Click on the video drop down. You'll want to make sure that it's still 4K, 30 frames per second, progressive. You'll want to select render at maximum depth and use maximum render quality. You want to scroll down, and on the target bitrate, you want to set that to 15. A lot of people say to use 2-pass, but I've had issues using 2-pass where it doesn't transfer to my phone very well. Sometimes it won't even open in the photos, so I make sure to just use the 1-pass. You don't want to go above 15 megabits a second as your target bitrate, or then Instagram's going to start reducing the quality significantly. So once you have those settings, I wouldn't even adjust audio, any of those others. So then you'll go ahead and hit export. And that will look something like this. If those tips helped you, make sure you leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And if you have any other tips, please let me know down below. Thanks for watching.